Namaskar. Dear viewers, welcome to the lecture series on food technology. Today, the topic traditional fermented foods will be discussed under the subheadings. 1. Introduction. 2. Cereal based fermented foods. 3. Vegetable based fermented foods. 4. Milk and meat based fermented foods. And at last, 5th, traditional health benefits of fermented foods. 1. Introduction. Traditional fermented foods are popularly consumed and form an integral part of our diet since early history. It can be prepared in the household or in cottage industry using relatively simple techniques and equipments. Fermentation is one of the oldest and most economical methods of producing and preserving food. In addition, fermentation provides a natural way to reduce the volume of the material to be transported, to destroy undesirable components, to enhance the nutritive value and appearance of the food, and to reduce the energy required for cooking and to make a safer product. Since the age of civilization, methods for the fermentation of milk, meats, vegetables and cereals have been described. The earliest records appear in the Fertile Crescent, that is Middle East, and date back to 6000 BC. Of course, the preparation of these fermented foods and beverages was in an artisan way and without any knowledge of the role of the microorganisms involved. However, by the middle of the 19th century, two events changed the way in which food fermentations were performed and the understanding of the process. Firstly, the Industrial Revolution resulted in the concentration of large masses of population in towns and cities. As a consequence, food had to be made in large quantities, requiring the industrialization of the manufacturing process. In the second place, the blossoming of microbiology as a science in the 1850s formed the biological basis of fermentation, and the process was understood for the first time. Ever since, the technologies for the industrial production of fermented products of milk, meat, fruits, vegetables and cereals are well developed, and scientific work is actively carried out all over the world. India is traditionally rich in fermented foods. In the Indian subcontinent, fermented food using local food crops and other biological resources are very common. But in the nature of the products and the base material varies from region to region. Fermented foods such as idli and dahi were described as early as 700 BC. At present, there are hundreds of fermented foods with different base materials and fermentation methodology. Each fermented food is associated with a unique group of microbiota, which increases the level of proteins, vitamins, essential amino acids and fatty acids. However, fermented foods are still produced traditionally by spontaneous fermentation, and only limited knowledge has been obtained regarding the microbiota of these products. The preparation of many indigenous or traditional fermented foods and beverages remains today as a house art. They are produced in homes, villages and small scale industries. On the contrary, the preparation of others such as soya sauce has evolved to a biotechnological state and is carried out on a large commercial scale. In the distant past, there was no verified data on the economic, nutritional, technical and quality control implication of the indigenous fermented food. However, in the last 20 years, the number of books and articles dealing with indigenous fermented beverages and foods found around the whole world have rapidly increased. In this context, this topic aims to summarize the types and production process of some of the most common traditional fermented foods used in India. Dear students, let us see now cereal based fermented foods of India. Cereal grains constitute a major source of dietary nutrients all over the world. Although cereals are deficient in some basic components, for example, essential amino acids, fermentation may be the most simple and economical way of improving their nutritional value, sensory properties, and functional qualities. In view of this, cereals have been chosen as raw materials for the production of fermented foods. Some of the commonly used traditional fermented foods are as follows. The first is idli, a fermented thick suspension made of a blend of rice, that is Oryza sativum, and dehulled black gram, that is Phaseolus mungo, is used in several traditional foods in Southeast Asian countries. Among them, idli and dosa are very popular in India and Sri Lanka. Traditionally, for idli preparation, the rice and black gram are soaked separately. After draining the water, rice and black gram are grinded independently with occasional addition of water during the process. The rice is coarsely ground and the black gram is finely ground. Then the rice and the black gram batters are mixed together, that is 2:1 ratio, with addition of a little salt and allowing to ferment overnight at room temperature, that is about 30°C. Finally, the fermented batter is placed in a special idli pans and steamed for 5 to 8 minutes. The lactic acid bacteria such as Leuconostoc mesmerides, Streptococcus faecalis, Lactobacillus delbrueckii, Lactobacillus fermentae, Lactobacillus lactis, and Pediococcus cerevisiae have been found to be responsible for the fermentation process. Although Lactobacillus mesmerides and Streptococcus faecalis are considered to be the microorganism essential for leavening the batter and for acid production in idli. The yeast Geotrichum candidum, Tarulopsis holmi, Tarulopsis candida, and Trichosporan pullulans have been identified in idli fermentation. Fermentation of idli batter appears to have a significant effect on the increase of all essential amino acids and in the reduction of anti-nutrients such as phytic acid, enzyme inhibitors, and flatus sugars. Coming to the second product, that is dosa. It is very similar to idli batter except that the rice and black gram are finely ground and that the fermented suspension, instead of being steamed in a heated with a little oil and a flat plate. A dosa suspension is prepared by grinding wet rice and black gram separately with water. The two suspensions are then mixed and allowed to undergo natural fermentation, usually for 8 to 20 hours. To make a dosa, the fermented suspension is spread in a thin layer, that is of 1 to 5 millimeter thickness, on a flat heated plate which is smeared with a little oil or fat. A salt to gel transformation occurs during the heating, and within a few minutes a circular semi-soft to crisp product resembling a pancake ready for consumption is obtained. The microbiological, physical, and biochemical changes of dosa during fermentation and its nutritive value are quite similar to idli. Dhokla. Dhokla is also similar to idli except that Bengal gram dal is used instead of black gram dal in its preparation. A mixture of rice and chickpea flour is also used as the substrate for the fermentation. As in idli preparation, the fermented batter is poured into a greased pie tin and steamed in an open steamer. As in other indigenous fermented foods, a significant improvement in the biological value and net protein utilization of dokla due to fermentation has been reported. Kozu. Kozu is the Tamil name for porridge made from millet, that is finger millet. A traditional South Indian weaning food is also consumed in the fermented form. As kuzu in rural and urban households, kuzu is made from kezavagu or kombu flour and broken rice in a mud pot. Kuzu is consumed as a breakfast and during festival time by the rural population. Kuzu is easily digested and it cools the body. Therefore, during summer street, vendors sell it as a cool drink in South India. Appam. Appam is a type of pancake made with fermented rice batter and coconut milk. It is a common food in the South Indian state of Kerala. It is also popular in Tamil Nadu and Sri Lanka. It is eaten most frequently for breakfast or dinner. Fermented rice or pachaya soru. Fermented rice or pachaya soru is prepared by adding water to cooked rice and by incubating the mixture overnight, and finally adding buttermilk and salt and directly consumed. It is an early morning diet for farmers prior to going to the field. Predominant microbiota isolated from these foods include Lactobacillus fermentum, Lactobacillus plantarum, Enterococcus faecalis, Pediococcus acidolactici, Pediococcus cerevisiae and Lactobacillus mesmeroides. Coming to the last product, which is based on cereal based fermented sweets and snacks. These foods are consumed mostly during festival times and other special occasions. Wheat, rice and barley flours are predominantly used cereals. Sugar or salt is added compulsorily in the fermented foods mentioned in this category. In jalebi and selroti, sugar as high as 25% is added. These foods select only those microbes which can survive low water activity. Fermented sweets and snacks are popularly consumed throughout India. Coming to the second type of traditional fermented food, that is vegetable based fermented products. Many different forms of vegetables are fermented and preserved by the tribal people of India. Among that, the first product is gandrak. Gandrak is a fermented vegetable product indigenous to the Nepali people of the Himalayan region. It is commonly prepared during winter, that is October to December, when perishable leafy vegetables are plenty. These vegetables are mainly leaves of mustards, that is Brassica juneacea, ryo sag, that is Brassica rapa, cauliflowers, that is Brassica oleracea, radish, that is Raphanus sativus, and some other locally grown vegetables. The microorganisms predominantly occurring in gandrak have been identified as Lactobacillus brevis, Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus paracasei, Pediococcus pentosius, Pediococcus acidolactici and Leuconostoc phallax. For its fermentation, fresh leaves of the selected vegetables are first wilted and shredded using a sickle or knife. These are then crushed mildly and pressed into an earthen pot. The container is then made airtight and left to ferment naturally at room temperature for about 7 to 10 days. After the incubation period, the leaves takes a mild acidic taste which indicates the completion of fermentation. The gandrak is then removed and sun dried for 3 to 4 days, which helps in storage. Gandrak is sold in all the local markets of Darjeeling Hills and Sikkim by the Nepali women. It is eaten as a soup or pickle. The soup, which is prepared after mixing gandrak with certain ingredients, serves as a good appetizer. Sinki. This is a form of fermented radish, that is Raphanus sativus. Tap root, and it consumed by the Nepalis in Darjeeling, Sikkim and Nepal. It is prepared during the months of winter when weather is least humid and there is ample supply of this vegetable. The microbes associated with its fermentation have been identified as Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus brevis and Lactobacillus fermentum. Jiang Sang, Jiang Dui. This is a fermented leafy vegetable product which is common to both the states of Manipur and Nagaland. It is produced dominantly by the Naga women and sold in the local markets. The microbes associated have been identified as Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus brevis and Pediococcus acidolactice. Goyang. The Sherpa tribe belonging to the state of Sikkim and hills of Darjeeling prepare this fermented product from leaves of the wild plant Magana sag, that is Cardamine macrophylla wild. Samples have been found to contain the species Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus brevis, Lactococcus lactis, Enterococcus faecium and Pediococcus pentaceus. Fermented bamboo shoot, one of the popular fermented food. This is another fermented product which is extensively used in the states of northeast India and bears resemblance to Jiang Sung and Kurdi in Orissa. It is mainly used as a taste enhancer and flavor provider. Many varieties of bamboo are used separately by the different tribes using their own traditional techniques. Soybum or soydan are fermented bamboo shoot products and are indigenous foods of the state of Manipur. They are consumed as an indispensable part of the Manipuri diet and are familiar with the social customs of the people. Soybum is produced exclusively from succulent bamboo shoots. The organisms found to be associated with the fermentation of soybum have been identified as Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus brevis, Lactobacillus coriniformis, Lactobacillus delbrueckii, Lactobacillus lactis, Leuconostoc phallax, Leuconostoc mesenteroides, Enterococcus durans, Streptococcus lactis, Bacillus subtilis, Bacillus licheniformis, Bacillus coagulans and the yeast. Kalpi. Kalpi is a cucumber product of the state of Sikkim and Darjeeling hills. It is generally prepared for home consumption by the Nepali Brahmins belonging to the Bahun and Chetri communities. Microbes associated with its fermentation have been identified as Lactobacillus plantarum, Lactobacillus brevis and Leuconostoc phallax. For preparation of kalpi, mature and ripened cucumbers are cut into definite sizes and sun dried for 2 days. They are then put into bamboo vessels called dungro and sealed. Fermentation is allowed to take place for 4 to 7 days at room temperature. The product can be stored for about a week in an airtight container. It is taken as a pickle after mixing with mustard oil, chilies and salts. Fermented beans. Fermented foods made from legumes constitute an important part of the human diet in many developing countries, including India. Fermented soybean products have been reported to be used extensively in almost all the states of northeast India. Kinema is a soybean based fermented food. The soybean, that is Glycine max, is locally known as batmas and varieties used are yellow cultivar and dark brown cultivar. It is produced individually or on household level and sold in local markets. It is extensively prepared by the Nepalis belonging to the Limbu and Rai communities of Sikkim. Hawaiizer produced in the states of Manipur. Hawaiizer is a sticky fermented soybean product. Akone are Bekang and Peruvian. These are all fermented soybean products and known by different names among different tribes. They are prepared from soybean. Lactic acid bacteria, Bacillus subtilis and other Bacillus species have been found in these samples. Milk based fermented foods. Milk and milk based fermented products are consumed most popularly due to their nutritive value. Most of the foods in this category are prepared by simply adding lactic acid bacteria to milk of either cow, buffalo or yak and allowed to ferment. One such fermented food is dahi. Its description is found in text as old as 700 BC. Dahi or curd is most popular and commonly used traditional Indian fermented product. Dahi differs from yogurt in its use of mixed starters of mesophilic lactococci. A principal flavor inducing metabolite is diacetyl, which is appreciated more by people of South Asian origin compared to the acetaldehyde flavor in yogurt. Khadi, churpa or churpi and nudu. In Himachal Pradesh, traditional milk-based products are prepared from the milk of several species of indigenous cattle, buffalo, sheep, goats and churu, that is hybrid of cow and yak. Kadi is prepared by simmering a mixture of cha, that is buttermilk, basan, that is gram flour and spices. Buttermilk is boiled, then water is discarded and solids are dried hard, which later used to prepare soups called churpa or churpi. Nudu is a ceremonial food prepared by cooking wheat flour in milk with small amount of salt and is eaten with ghee. Shayo is a thick gel curd like product prepared from yak milk. Mohi is a buttermilk prepared by churning dahi. It is consumed as a refreshing beverage. Soma is a soft paste, strong flavored with bitter taste and is consumed as a soup along with cooked rice or finger millets by the Sherpas of Sikkim. Filu is a typical indigenous cream-like milk product obtained from cow milk or yak milk and is mostly eaten as a cooked paste delicacy with boiled rice by the Sikkimese. Meat-based fermented foods. In India, people of the northeastern region ferment meat of yak, goat, pig, fish and crab for preservation for a longer period. Karyogang is an ethnic sausage-like fermented product prepared from yak, beef and pork. Fermented fish products are important dietary components in the protein deficient Southeast Asia. Preservation of fish by salt is an age-old technology. Hentag is a ball-like paste prepared by fermentation of a mixture of sun-dried fish, that is Isomus dandricus powder and petioles of aroid plants, that is Aloysia macrorhiza in Manipur. Tung top is a fermented fish paste commonly consumed by the Khassias tribe of Meghalaya in northeastern state of India. Dry fish, that is Danio species, is mixed with salt, kept in an earthen pot and fermented for 4 to 7 days. It is consumed as pickle. Lactobacillus lactis subspecies cremoris, Lactococcus plantarum, Enterococcus faecium, Lactobacillus fructosus, Lactobacillus amylophilus and Lactobacillus corniformis are predominant lactic acid bacteria species reported in fermented meat based products. Coming to the last, traditional health benefits of fermented foods. Indian fermented foods are consumed by the local population not just as a diet but as traditional medicine too. Many of the foods were observed to have beneficial effect during ailment by the local people, and they are used as a special diet or medicine for ages. Fermented food idli is easily digested and often used as a food for infants and invalids. It is a prescribed diet in the hospitals for patients undergoing treatment. Kuzu is included in the daily diet of rural and agricultural workers and is claimed to be a nourishing health food. There is an increase in thiamine, riboflavin and niacin contents during its fermentation. Kuzu is given to children at weaning age. Fermented milk dahi can be used to cure intestinal disease such as diarrhea. Certain fermented vegetable products such as gandrak, sinki, kanjika, iromba are said to be good appetizers, and the ethnic people use these foods for remedies from indigestion. Bhutia women use gandrak soup and give it to breastfeeding mothers to improve milk efficiency. It is considered as a tonic for old age people. Fermented radish root pieces are called sinki. It is very effective in curing diarrhea and stomach pain and is consumed mostly during lean period. Iromba is prepared from tree bean, that is Parkia roxburghi, and is considered an appetizer. Fermented rye helps in curing stomach pain and gas trouble and significantly improves digestion. Kanjika or kanji is a lactic fermented rice product. It has been prescribed for a number of chronic diseases by Indian Ayurvedic practitioners. Carrot kanji is considered to have high nutritional value and cooling and soothing properties. Beetroot kanji is considered to have potential to prevent infection and malignant diseases. Most of the health benefit claims for these traditional fermented foods based on traditional belief. Hence, there is a scope to conduct scientific survey and experiment based research to prove these claims. Coming to conclusion, Indian fermented foods are diverse due to diversity in India's culture and food habit. Consumption of some of the fermented foods has medicinal properties such as appetizing, relief from diarrhea, constipation, stomach pain and gas trouble. It also prevents plague, infection and malignant diseases. Besides, they have cooling and soothing effect when consumed during summer. Thank you.